Fáilte folks, my name is Darren McCann and welcome to the Irish Folklore and Mythology podcast. Irish folklore is some of the best myths and legends that the world has ever known. Here we will talk heroes, warriors, demons, gods, goddesses and all manner of mythical and supernatural beings. Learn about some obscure Celtic and Irish stories you have not heard and refresh your minds on well-known tales from right here in the Emerald Isle. So please sit back and listen to the stories of Ireland of old. As the sun slowly sets behind the clouds and the blackness of night begins to consume the sky, a strong, cold, piercing wind blows. Suddenly, in the distance, the sound of horses' hooves stomping the earth can be heard echoing through the land, followed by a loud, high-pitched shriek that would turn the very blood in your veins to ice. Your name is then roared louder than anything you have ever heard. The Dullahan is coming, and it's coming for you. Oh, the Dullahan. In Ireland of old, it is said that on certain nights of feast days and festivals, one of the most horrifying creatures of the spirit world, not Michael Jackson, but the Dullahan, breaks into our plane of existence and can be seen riding a large black stallion across the Irish countryside. Where it stops, a mortal will die that night. The Dullahan is a headless rider, the actual original headless horseman. In one hand it carries its rotting corpse head under its arm, and in the other it holds a long sharp whip fashioned from the spinal cords and bones of its victims, which is pretty terrifying, but it's just cool. The mouth of his head is split into a dreadful smile. It stretches both sides of its decaying face. Its eyes are constantly moving, rolling back into its head from side to side as it searches for its next victim. The Dullahan holds its head high over its rotting corpse to see where it is going, on the hunt for the souls it will feast upon. It is most commonly depicted riding on the back of a decomposing black horse, also headless, or riding a black carriage that is pulled by 6 black dead horses. The wagon of the carriage is full of funeral objects. It is candles and skulls to light its way. The covering of the wagon is made from dried human skin. It wears a long black cloak that hangs behind it. So think the Black Hooded Nazgul in Lord of the Rings. But these lads came a long time before Mr. Tolkien's imaginings. Tolkien was known to thoroughly enjoy and take many ideas from Irish mythology quite frequently. It is said that the Dullahan's horses ran so fast and ferociously that hellfire emerged from both their nostrils and hooves as they struck the ground, and the friction from this set the hedges alight along the sides of Irish roads. Stay out of its path and beware all those poor souls that witness it pass, for you will be punished, and not just with a slap bite, but either by being covered head to toe in the Dullahan's latest victim's blood, or by being slashed and blinded in both eyes by its sharp, devastating whip. As it roams the countryside and makes its way through the villages and towns of Ireland old, all gates and doors of homes burst open, making way for the beast. The biggest fear of all when dealing with this monstrous entity is if it stops and calls out your name. The Dullahan can only speak once during its journey in the land of the living, and that's only when it has found its next victim. As mentioned, when it stops and states a name, that person's soul is called to death. Unlike its fairy relative, the queen herself, the banshee, who when screams is a warning for those who hear it that a member of their family will die. The Dullahan does not come to warn. It is the bringer of death and the bringer of demise. In old mythology and legend, it is said there is only one way to defy it. Precious gold or metal frightens it away. It says in many texts and many tales of this creature, especially when it was most popular here in Ireland, that people were most likely to have gold and such. But I'm not really sure that many people in old Ireland really had a lot of gold, especially when there wasn't a spud between them. In ancient times, the idea of this was sacrificing something so valuable for your life. When researching, it states several times that the Dullahan was very popular and one of the most well-known tales of Irish mythology, which honestly it isn't true. Well, not anymore at least. I have heard of the Headless Rider, alright, but that's because I read into these old stories. But for anyone else I ever asked, they had no idea what I was talking about. But the minute I mentioned the Headless Horseman, everyone knew. And this obviously because the Headless Horseman mythos has just become so popular and seeped into pop culture. Just like Michael Jackson. Because of tales and films such as The Legend of Sleepy Hollow, where it actually was the story of a soldier who lost his head during battle and came back every Halloween to try to reclaim what was his, killing everything in his way. It also was found in a number of German stories, such as a lot of the Brothers Grimm tales, and in older German stories than that, which tells of the Headless Horseman, who blows his horn to warn huntsmen not to ride, as death will befall them that day. The interesting thing though, stories such as the Legend of the Sleepy Hollow and a lot of other European myths and legends are actually based on Irish folklore of the Dullahan. For the Irish stories are said to be the oldest of this creature. It can never be really truly known how the Dullahan tales originated in Ireland, but it has become common belief that it is the embodiment of the Celtic god of fertility, Crom Dubh, who was worshipped by an ancient king of old Ireland. Each year the king would sacrifice huge numbers of his own people to his main man in the sky, Crom Dubh, and his preferred way of ritual sacrifice was decapitation. But roll on the 6th century and the party was over, because, that's right, enter Christianity. Old sacrificial traditions and beliefs went out of favour and were condemned by the church, because the wreck the buzz that was the Christ God was spreading, as bad as your old ex's STI. But Crom Dubh was not quickly forgotten, for it is said that he took on the physical form of the Headless Dullahan, which in Old Gaelic means dark man. The god did this to continue getting the offering of human souls he was once promised. When I was looking into the Dullahan, it just reminded me of the sheer imagination and the absolute fear that filled our ancestors. The real fears were a very real dark daily thing that they faced in their tough lives. The Dullahan is a creature of death that struck terror into the hearts of all the people. These stories have been told and passed on from generation to generation, just like many, many others. In modern times, the Dullahan, or the Headless Horseman, has been popularised as an evil character in many computer games and fantasy stories. Thus, the legend of the Dullahan is one of the most interesting represented in Irish legends, and I feel it will continue to do so for many years to come. I'd just like to say thanks again, guys, for listening. If you enjoyed it, please like, subscribe, and share. And never forget self-love and positivity. Thank you.